Hello everyone, in this video I'll be showing you an OP Evil Shadowheart build in Baldur's Gate 3's patch 8. This fits perfectly thematically as we're using the Death Domain cleric and a very cool combination that I was able to put together, and it actually works very well. So we'll be starting off here as the Death Domain cleric here. This gives us the Reaper ability, which we can use 2 necromancy cantrips on a target, which gives us some very powerful early game damage. Now we're going to switch this cantrip to Bone Chill because we can take the other 2 here. So we're going to go with obviously the Toll of the Dead and the Bursting Sinew and Sacred Flame. If any targets are strong against necrotic damage, they may be weak to Radiant. Now the ability score spread that we'll be going with, this is a multi-attribute dependent build. So obviously there's going to be some ways that we can work with this because there's gear that lets us take our dexterity or constitution and reapply that elsewhere. So you could go with a stat spread like this, so 14 in all of our stats here. We can also take some points out of dexterity. This +2 will give us the ability to get a +2 to armor class and medium armor, so that can be nice. However, we can also use the dexterity gauntlets to take out that from the equation, or we could also use the constitution amulet to also dump our constitution later on in the game. Just depends where you're at. We do want to get our stats up a little bit higher in our intelligence and in our wisdom, so using the dexterity gauntlets, we can go with this stat spread here, or if you want to use a constitution amulet, you can swap that out. We need intelligence because we're not adding the blade singing wizard. However, there's a really cool combination that I can show you guys here that works very well with this. So we'll roll with this stat spread here, and I will show you the full gear guide as well as the combat section as well. So into level 2, we get ourselves the channel divinity touch of death, which we can add to our melee attacks, and this is why we want the blade singing wizard. Yes, the blade singing wizard can't use spears, but there's a way to kind of work around that, and it doesn't actually make it too much more difficult. So we also get the turn undead spell, and we also get to choose our spells. Now, early game, we can use the touch of death with inflict wounds for some good damage. Guiding bolt's nice, healing word, command, and then we can also go with like bless or sanctuary, depending on if you need more defense or if you need to buff up your teammates. Into level 3, we get Ray of Enfeeblement, Blindness, and the spells that come with level 3. So Spiritual Weapon and Hold Person being 2 highly useful spells to have. Hold Person is great because you can do critical hits on the target. At level 4, we get to choose another cantrip, Guidance, or Produce Flame. And for the feat, now this is an interesting one because we can go with a dual wielder feat, and we can actually do some cool stuff with this, which I'll show you. It gives it a +1 armor class if you're using weapons in the offhand, which we're going to, because we can kind of cheese something here, which I'll show you guys. And then we also get to prepare another spell here. Again, I'll cover all this in the combat section of the video so you get an idea of how to get that bonus to our overall survivability. Level 5, we get the Animate Dead and Vampiric Touch, but the most important part here is Spirit Guardians. This allows us to do necrotic damage, and we can run around applying damage to targets, and it'll ignore resistances. Then we can also take the Mass Healing Word or the Glyph of Warding. Another nice use for Glyph of Warding is Shadowheart can cast this at her feet. It'll trigger it, and the sleep version of this will actually sleep enemies around her, but she's immune to sleep, so booyah, it works well. And then at level 6, we get the Inescapable Destruction. We can ignore resistances to necrotic damage, which is going to come in handy with our Spirit Guardians. And then we can also learn Circle of Death, which is crazy, but it works. And then we'll take this for our spells here. So you could also remove Hold Person, use your intelligence to cast it, but it's entirely your call at this point. At next level, we're going to add in, it's nice to get the Blade spell, but we're going to add in the Wizard. This allows us to scribe the spell if you want Blade. And for spells, Booming Blade. You can see there, we got a lot of extra damage on our attacks. So many damage riders, so little time. Mage Hand is also nice because you can use this to throw potions to yourself. Or if you want to use lightning spells, you can also throw water bottles to set up extra damage. And then Ray of Frost or Shocking Grasp. As for the spells we'll be taking here, I like to always have Shield. Mage Armor is also somewhat useful if you wanted to take light clothing option instead of going with heavier or medium armor. And then we can go with Chromatic Orb, Grease, and Magic, or we got Magic Missile and Thunder Wave there. And then for prepared spells, we'll go with something like that. Once we get to higher levels, we get to choose and scribe any spell from a scroll. We'll take the Blade Singing Wizard here. We'll take a couple more spells. Also having the Long Strider is nice to have. We'll go with a short sword there, and that's just the weapon that you get. It doesn't actually change your proficiencies. We get all those weapon proficiencies. Level 3, we get Scorching Ray and a very powerful Shadow Blade. If you want to maximize the damage, that's the way to go. You don't have to take Shadow Blade, but it is an option there if you wanted it. And if not, you could also go with, I'll show you some other spells here. So you can go with Misty Step, Mirror Image to increase your armor class by 9. Darkness also works here, but we got another way to use it. And Shatter, another decent spell, and Invisibility. So we're going to go with these 2 here. We already have Hold Person, and The extra spell, I guess Shocking Grasp or Friends or even like Mana Illusion can be good too. And then for the feat, I would recommend taking our intelligence up to 18. Just better spell casting. It's good. And then at level 5, we get ourselves additional choice in spells. Counterspell is an essential one to take because you can't learn this from scrolls. And Lightning Bolt or Fireball for our second spell there. Haste and Sleet Storm are 2 other good spells. And at level 6, we get our extra attack. And on top of this, we're going to take Sleet Storm, Fireball, or Haste. Now, what's cool about this is we can actually utilize some very interesting strategies. So with this, we have 22 armor class here, so 14 from our armor here, and then we also got the bonuses from the cloak protection, ring protection, evasive shoes, and the dual wielder bonus armor class. So I put the Shar spear in the offhand because this allows us to actually use the blade song and then get that bonus to our armor class from it. So I've tampered with it a bunch. I was able to get it oddly enough having this in the offhand and getting the bonus to armor class, but what you can see here is with the blade song, you get that +3 to armor class. You don't have to use the blade song, however. This does give you a +3 to your armor class, but so does using a shield. So that's another option if you just want to forego that. Obviously, using the blade song is nice, but the big benefits of adding the blade singing wizard is the ability to get the extra attack as well as full spell casting level. So we get to level 6 spells and all that jazz. So this is probably the best weapon, the Shar Spear of the evening. Although, if you want to use the blade song, you can use there's I guess 2 options to go about this. You can use a Dolor Amaris in the offhand, or the Cold Snap Dagger, which will give you an additional +1 armor class. So something like this will give you 26 AC because you get the Cold Snap +1 AC in the offhand, and then that further takes it up even higher. So if you want to go that route, you can also use clothing, so like the Robe of the Weave plus the Mage Armor spell can also be another good choice. And if you want to, you can even go into like heavier armor and just forego the blade song itself. And with that, we could just use the Shar Spear, the Knight here, which is a very powerful weapon because it gives us the ability to see in darkness. If you want the effects of this, you could take the Eversight ring, which gives you blindness immunity. There's even the helmet, but it is medium armor, so it wouldn't allow you to blade song. But I like having the Shadow Cloaked ring alongside this for additional damage on lightly or heavily obscured targets, which we're going to have with this. So I also like to have the Helmet of Arcane Acuity, because if we do melee attacks, we can stack up and get a +10 to our spell save DC. Cloak protection. Now again, we got multiple armor choices. You can do something here by just adding in the Armor of Agility. This is going to be the best for armor class alongside the Gloves of Dexterity. You can see we get a 26 armor class. If we were to add in a shield, this would actually boost it up even further. So that's another option if you wanted to just forego that altogether and add a shield for 27 armor class. But I think the Cold Snap works very well, unless we want to do something a little different. Then also have the Evasive Shoes, of course, Shar Spear of the Evening here, a big focus of this build, and the Shadow Cloaked ring, and the Ring of Protection and Amulet of Greater Health, which will give us advantage in Constitution saving throw checks. So kind of makes up for the difference that we lose from this with a +3 bonus. Now, there's another way that we can go about doing this, and I want to highlight that. So we would take a Staff of Spell Power, and then this gives us the Arcane Battery, which we can then use to cast in our own upcasted Shadow Blade, since we got the max level spell slots here. So that's going to change that and put the Shadow Blade in your offhand. We can remove that, put it in the main hand, and then put our Shar Spear in the offhand and get a 25 armor class. So yeah, if anyone can figure out how to utilize and get medium, because I did have it previously having medium armor and getting the blade song bonus, and then I also had it with this in the offhand and got the blade song bonus, so it is possible. I'm just not entirely sure what triggers it, but yeah, we can roll with this as well. If you're going to use the Shadow Blade, make sure you have the Resonant Stone in your inventory. So this works very well because we get our extra attacks and we get full spell casting. So that lets us learn the Circle of Death scroll here, which gives us a 86 necrotic, ignores resistance, and we can learn this spell. And then we can also learn like Cone of Cold and Odaluk's Freezing Sphere for 2 more powerful spells. And then what we'll do is we'll go into our wizard spell list here, which is 26 or 16 DC. But if we have our Arcane Acuity stacked up, we get it up to 26. So then we can take off some spells, add in Circle of Death for the theming. If you don't use Mage Armor, you can take that off as well, and then add in all your more powerful spells that you want to go with, so like Lightning Bolt, Fireball, and then also make sure that you do have some form of crowd control with our some form of counter spell here. So you make your spell list look like this. Circle of Death obviously being a big focus of this. You can use Odaluk's Freezing Spear as well. It's a little bit more powerful, but this ends up being pretty strong. So we got 25 armor class, and we also have our immunity to blindness, and we get advantage on saving throws while lightly or heavily obscured. So that's even better because we can save ourselves, and then we deal additional damage to lightly or heavily obscured enemies. And then you can see there our Shadow Blade also gets some extra bonuses. So the 4d8 +4 +1d4 +1d6, pretty good. And if you add in a strength potion, it takes it even further. So our first turn in combat, I would recommend setting up the darkness. So we have the Shar's Darkness. Since we have this on the offhand, we don't get access to the main version of it, so you can swap those around if you prefer using them the other way around, but the Shadow Blade is much more powerful. We do want to get Darkness set up. Now, if you got someone else, they can also use a Arrow of Darkness. So let's use Minsk there to shoot an Arrow of Darkness. Now we got our way to mess around the enemies. The big thing of this build is the benefits from Shadow Blade on, you get additional damage on your attacks, so you can see here, or you get an advantage on your attacks, so any lately obscured area is going to benefit this, so this works actually perfectly. The Knife of the Undermountain King also gets this benefit, so if you just want to use the Ballast Armor and that's another consideration too. But you're going to go run in there, Booming Blade, which you can see does a upwards of 66 damage, which is doubled. So then you can just go ahead here and hit someone with it here, so boom, 70 damage, yeah, one shot in them. And then we'll follow this up with another attack here, because, yeah, make sure you turn off dual wielding, and we'll go after any type of caster here. 76 damage on that. It's crazy. And we also got spells, so that's the beauty of this. You can see very useful to have this nice long line. If you can line this up even better, sometimes you can get multiple targets. So that's 1 2 3 4 5 targets. We'll upcast that for additional damage, and this is just great because, yeah, you still get the blade singing animations there, which is kind of funny. And finally, since this target's almost down, we can do a bonus action attack on the offhand. So boom, 99% hit chance. That took them out. Perfect. And then this Darkness is just good to camp out in because they can't do melee attacks into it. They can only do throwing attacks. And the beautiful thing is we have shield that we can use, and it gives us the option for our wisdom or our intelligence based ones. But yeah, shield's nice because it'll increase your armor class by 5 for that turn. And then we also have counterspell. That's another nice thing. I guess that was on another character there, but we have counterspell to shut down any spellcasters as well. So if you don't want them to cast a spell, boom, that's your reaction. I guess the shield was another character there, but we do have shield ourselves, and we were perfectly safe in our little pocket of darkness, and that's exactly how it should be. Now again, we see a lot of enemies lined up right here, so that makes sense to do a different type of attack. But we can also go ahead with a Circle of Death here, because it's going to hit a variety of different targets. So that can be really nice as well. Anytime you see an opportunity to hit multiple targets with a spell, you can also obviously take that. So we'll get ourselves out of the blast radius, and we'll hit my dark urge there. Boom, that hits a lot of them. So that's a nice option for a spell as well. But when in doubt, Shadow Blade it out. But we also got a nice lineup here, so we can go with another lightning bolt there. Boom. And then any that are not finished up by that, we can have our main hand attack with advantage. 12 damage, that's perfect, so they needed that. And we didn't even get to use Spirit Guardians, but this is another really powerful one because we can use the necrotic version and have it be very powerful. And we can also upcast it. That's the nice thing about that, is it does a lot of damage. And then we can use this to also camp in our darkness a little bit too, so we just run around applying this to everyone. I'll eat that opportunity attack because it's not hit. Boom, that was enough to dissolve that target. So perfect use of our action. And then we can follow up with a Booming Blade on this one. Boom, 74 and 10. Yeah, it's crazy. And then follow up with another attack on this target. This target probably doesn't even need that, so you can go to a target with more health because you're going to hit extremely hard. And the thing with Spirit Guardians is the Spirit Guardians are just going to take them out next turn, and that target's only got 1 health, of course. So I guess we'll do a main hand attack on this one, 62 damage, and an offhand attack on this one. Boom, 14 damage, and then protect our teammates with our Spirit Guardians. You could also, again, use the Shard's Darkness for concentration, or concentration free with an Arrow of Darkness, so pick those up. And for the win, we just had to walk. Boom, there it is. So yeah, very powerful. The Blade Song is nice. If you don't get that bonus armor class, there is a kind of weird way. Again, can't figure that one out again, but you don't need it because we can get a 27 armor class with haste. So that dual wielder feat is really nice because then you can utilize the Shadow Blade in your main hand, have this in the offhand for that free blindness, and then also the additional damage on lately or heavily obscured targets, which you can apply to this. And then with the ring, it also applies that 1d4. So 1d4, 1d6 bonus on lately or heavily obscured targets, which is pretty much everyone we're going to be attacking. And with this gear, it's actually pretty strong. So there is the Evil Shadowheart build in Baldur's Gate 3. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Hit the subscribe button below if you haven't already, and I'll see you all in the next video.